Welcome back to part 2 of our series where we are now exploring how to parse individual SEC document filings. More importantly, we're talking about the new types of filings. These are the filings that come, I believe, after 2009, just because the content inside each of these text files is definitely more structured than what you're going to find in filings that come before 2009. So in our last video, we kind of gave a high-level overview of as to how we're approaching this, kind of what we're trying to do, how the information is laid out and stored inside of these directories, and kind of how we're going to go about organizing this information as we're starting to parse it. So that way we can easily navigate in between individual components of our kind of massive text file. So kind of what we've already done is we've requested our particular content and then we created our master filings dictionary. I'm assuming that most of you are probably going to want to do this strategy across multiple filings. And so we've got to organize our information in such a way that you can easily navigate to each individual filing and then more importantly, each individual document inside each filing. And so what we've determined is to use our, I'm going to mispronounce it, our accession number. This is something that is unique to each filing. So if you were to go to this individual CIK number, you would see multiple of these particular numbers. These are individual numbers that exist for each filing. So they can serve as our key for any given particular company. Now, all I'm doing is I am simply taking this key that, you could find it in the URL, you can find it multiple places, and I'm having it serve as our key. And then what I do is once I've determined that I'm going to add a filing, I then add two components initially to each filing. One is the SEC header content, and then the next one is the filing documents itself. And so from here, all we've done so far is just grab the SEC header content and stored it inside of our filings dictionary. Now what we're going to cover is how to parse the documents. And so the first thing that we're going to have to do is get each individual document. Now, how is this all laid out in a sense, right? Well, you can kind of already see I have it here. You'll notice inside these text files that there's all these document tags. Each one of these document tags naturally represents one particular type of document. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find all those documents and I'm going to store each one of them inside of another dictionary. But I need a key to, well, basically I need something to act as a key for each one of these dictionaries. Now, for the most part, we can actually just take the type and have that act as a key. From what I can tell, the description and the type seem to behave in the most part the same. Regardless of which one you use, I would probably still use type because what you're going to find is that no individual filing is going to have two of the same type documents. So you're not going to see two 8K/A documents inside this filing. You might see another 8K document inside of a different filing, but you're never going to find two of the same types inside the same filing. And so that makes it a great candidate to serve as a key. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab each document and we're going to start parsing each of these individual components. And then we're going to start parsing the bulk of the document, which lies inside the text tag. And so what we need to first do is initialize our master document dictionary. And so what we'll do is we'll call it master document dictionary. And what we're going to do from here is then loop through each document in the filing. And so we'll say for filing document in soup.find all, and then it's document. Keep in mind it is lowercase. It's not the uppercase one. When Beautiful Soup does parse it, it does convert it to lowercase tags. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to define my document key or ID, if you want to call it. So we'll call it document ID. That will equal my filing document. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the type tag. You could technically do find type, and that would work as well. But in order to kind of make it just a little bit more concise, you can just call the tag itself. And then what you can do is then do the find text I'm sorry, shouldn't be in quotes, text equals true, and then recursive equals false. What that does is it makes sure that it doesn't go down the entire document itself, because I don't want it to, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to strip out the text. If I have recursive set to true, it's going to basically return all the text, which I don't want. I want it just to return the text that belongs to my type tag. The other thing too is if there is spaces inside your tag, you can't use this notation. You would have to do a find. So it would be find type and then find the text inside that tag. And then all we're doing is we're stripping it. And so then if I print this so you guys can see it, you'll see that it returns each document key. And so that can now serve as our ID, obviously. I'm going to grab some other stuff too. So document sequence. What is it? Document file name. And then finally document description. And so you basically can just take all this. It's really pretty much the same thing. This one is going to be now the sequence, and then sequence. This one is going to be file name, and I'm assuming that I'm not mistyping because that would be a shame. File name, and then the next one is the description. And so this one is going to be description, and then this one will be description. Okay, I think so. Perfect. And then again, I want to make sure there's an E at the end of that. Okay, so then what we can do from here is we're going to have our ID serve as the key. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to really just insert the key. And so we'll say master document dictionary document ID is going to equal, you guessed it, another dictionary, right? Because we got to go to multiple levels in order to keep all this information organized. And then from here, add the different parts of the document. And so, for example, what we can do is we can have this, and then we'll just call it document sequence. And then this one will equal document file name. This one will equal document description. And then it's going to equal all the different things. So document description, and then this will equal document file name. And of course, I hope I am typing this all out correctly, because that would be a shame. All right, so if I was just to look at it at this point, what will we get? So we're going to have something that looks a little bit like this. Now, you might be asking, Alex, why aren't you just storing it, in this one? We'll do that at the end. This one's just going to keep it more manageable for the time being. And then probably going forward, I'm not going to be able to print out anymore, just because there's going to be so much information that the Jupyter Notebook is just going to fail miserably. So unfortunately, at this point, I'm probably going to have to stop printing out stuff, just so everyone's aware. Alrighty. So what do we do from here? Well, this is the fun part. There's a couple different things we can do. Normally, how I like to organize this is we're going to have for each document ID all the code. So just all the code, not parsed, not broken up, nothing like that. It's going to always be found in another key called document code. The reason I want to do that is just if you ever had to go back and look at something again, you can always take the original document tag and you should be good to go. And so all this is going to do is add the document content itself. No kind of parsing, nothing like that. But you now have kind of your master template that if you ever had to go back and redo something, you've got it now. And so all that means is you're just going to call your filing document, so the one that you are on the loop, and you're going to call the extract method. Now this is going to extract all the code. I believe once you do this, unfortunately, what's going to happen is it's going to convert it into, no, this one's not going to convert it at this point. Um, we'll see later that I'm actually going to start splitting it, but in order to split it, I have to convert it to a string first. So this one should still be navigable. So you can still navigate it because it's still considered a beautiful soup object, but you'll see that unfortunately, when I have to split the other ones, it's going to turn it into a string, and then I'm going to have to repass that string back into beautiful soup in order to parse it again. But all this is doing at this point is it's just taking all the document content, so everything found inside each document tag, including all those type and sequence, and it's just storing it now in the dictionary. So now you've kind of got your master template where something went wrong, you can now go back to it. From here, what we're going to now do is get all the text. So get all the text in the document. And it's kind of misleading because I'm saying text, but really what I'm doing is I'm getting everything found inside the text tag. So everything found below the text tag will now be in a single variable. And so we'll call it filing document text. And so it's going to be filing document dot find text. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to extract that text. Now you might be asking, why didn't you do that little notation up here? Text is a special word inside of Beautiful Soup, and so unfortunately you can't use that. You would have to use find. Otherwise it's going to say nothing pops up. Okay, so from here, what are we going to do next? Well, ideally I have all my information that's found inside my text, but there's still kind of one more level we can go lower, and that level is basically individual pages found inside each document. How do you identify the page? Well, there's obviously one easy way. If you start looking and scrolling through each individual document, you'll see right here, there's a page number. And if you start inspecting a little bit, and if you start going to it, you'll see that it exists, but it's this really weird kind of basically what you would find is it's really hard to find that particular number. There's nothing denoting it being a page number, so you can't just do a simple find all, font. Otherwise, it's going to return everything back. What I did is I kind of started doing a little bit more exploring, and what I found is really you don't want the page number, you want the guy right below it. This guy right here. This is something unique. This is called a thematic break. It is actually wrapped inside of an HR tag, but it represents a thematic break. And it just so happens that your thematic break is also where the page breaks. So it's basically, it serves as a page break. What we're going to do is we're going to find all of these thematic breaks. We're going to store them in a list. We're going to convert them to a string. And then we're going to take all of our HTML code, so everything found in here, we're going to convert that into a string. And then we're going to split this massive string along each one of these thematic breaks. And what that will do is now it will take your entire document and have it be put into individual pages. So it might sound like a lot, but ideally what this is going to allow you to do is go one step lower into individual pages found inside of your document. So what we're going to do first is get all the thematic breaks. And so we'll store it in a variable called all thematic breaks. I don't know why they call it thematic breaks if they call it HR, but that's for another day. We're going to take our filing doc text and we're going to do a find all search method, and we're going to do a header row. Or it's not really a header row, sorry, a thematic break. Now you might think, oh, this is fine. We're looking for a very, very specific one. It's the ones where the width property or width attribute is 100%. There are some thematic breaks that only go 50%. Those don't denote a page break. We want all the ones that have 100% width because they represent true page breaks. And so I probably can show you what it looks like. It's probably not going to be too much of an issue, but this is kind of what you're going to start seeing. So now you're going to see all these individual tags, and they don't really seem like they're much use, but they're really, really important because otherwise you couldn't really go to a page level. And then you'll see in the older documents that they look completely different. In fact, they don't have thematic breaks. So once you've done that, now this is where the fun part kind of gets a little bit interesting. So on the code that I'm going to put on GitHub, you're going to see a different section. It's an optional section. You can do it. I don't necessarily encourage you to do it. And so I'll go over that little section and I'll probably call it quits for this video. Basically, I'm assuming that some of you might want the actual page numbers themselves. And so I've provided some optional code there. What do I mean by the page numbers? Really what I mean is you want the actual page numbers that you see on each document, because the way I'm going to auto generate it, it's not going to necessarily tie exactly to what you're seeing. And so you technically, I mean, you kind of can, but you technically can't break it into sections. You can, but it's a little bit more complicated. And so all this section does is it basically takes each thematic break, and we have to get a very specific tag that exists above it. And so what we do is we loop through each thematic break in our thematic break list, and we take that tag, we grab its parent, we grab the next parent above that, and then we grab the previous sibling of that parent, and then we grab the previous sibling of the previous sibling. So there's a lot to it, but basically where that will take you for each one of these is it will take you right here. So it will take you from here up to here. And what you can do is once you're at that tag, you can simply just strip the text. And then you can store that stripped text inside of a list. And that's all I'm doing here is I'm using list comprehension to basically create a list of all the page numbers. I also show you how to do it with a for loop if that kind of makes more sense to some people, because I understand list comprehension for some individuals is, especially if you're new to it, it's not the easiest thing to kind of wrap your head around. So I do provide that, but honestly, for speed, you really should be using list comprehension. Okay, and then once you've done that, you'll notice that you have a bunch of page numbers, but they're not clean. Some are missing, some basically should be page 0 or page 1, and they're nothing. And so basically what I have to do is I have to clean all of those page numbers. And so what I do is I first grab the length, or basically all the page numbers I found, because that's technically how many page numbers I'm supposed to have. And as long as I have more than 0, I start going through and cleaning all the page numbers. And really all I do is I first start by grabbing the last page in my particular, in my particular list. I initialize a new list that's going to store all of my clean page numbers. And then I start looping through my page number list. But more importantly, I start going in reverse. And from here, I really ask kind of, one question. Well, yeah, it's really one question. Is it blank? If it's blank, start cleaning it. If it's not, then simply take the page number and that we're on in our loop. So for example, as we're reversing, and just store that in the new page number list, so the one that's cleaned. And then you want to make sure that you reset the length of your page numbers and the previous number. Otherwise, it's just going to keep going. It's not going to necessarily go forever, but you'll start noticing it's not going to actually populate each page number the way it's supposed to. The one part that you're more concerned about with is if it's actually blank. So if it's blank, then you proceed to cleaning. Well, if you're cleaning it, then there's 2 other questions you got to ask. The first one is, was the previous number 1 or 0? If it was, that means we're kind of basically at a new section. And so if it's a new section, then what I have to do is I have to start it out at 0. And so if I basically store a string that represents 0 in my new page number, I reset my length of my page numbers, and I have my previous number now be the 0 one. So this is kind of to help us denote new sections. If it's not a new section, then basically all you do is you take the page number that you're on, you subtract 1, you convert the string, you store that in the new list, and then you just reset your numbers. And then finally, if you do come across a situation where there's no page numbers, you still should provide one, but all you're going to have it be is 1. I'm sorry, not 1, 0. And again, you might say, well, why 0? It's just easier to have it be 0. I mean, you could always go back, and if it's 0, then change it to 1, and then just have everything else after that be 1 number higher. But personally, I think that was going to make it even more complicated. And then all I do is I have to reverse my list because now it's in the opposite order. So I reverse it again. This returns a generator, and so I have to convert that generator to a list. And then all I do is I do this for each document. I store all the page numbers under a code called page numbers. So hopefully you followed that a little bit. It's a little bit easier once you kind of see it in person. Personally, I don't recommend that you do that, but you can. If it's really, really important that you have the actual page numbers themselves, that will get you those actual page numbers. But I'll show you down the road how we can just auto-generate some page numbers for ourselves. So at this point, if you have any questions, please put them down in the comments below, and I will try to get back to you. Also, if you could, please make sure to like the video. We always appreciate the support. And if you're not already, please make sure to subscribe to the channel so that way you get regular updates as we release new videos. So in the next video, we're going to keep parsing our document and we're going to split it into each individual page. And from there, we'll kind of be in a good spot to where we can start even further cleaning the data. So thank you again for watching, everybody. We'll see you in the next video.